The following is a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio. Keep your mission on your mind and your mind on your mission. This is Mission Minded with Michael Coleman.
Welcome back to Mission Minded. Keep your mind and your mission and your mind. He is Michael Coleman, Heart of Alabama Food Bank. Does fantastic work down there, and I know the times have been a little tough with the tariffs and everything else going on, some cuts to snap, and we'll get into that a little bit later on the show. If you want to learn more about that, you can certainly listen to our next show, BBB Bite by Bite, which is specific towards the Alabama Food Bank and, of course, Feeding America and the food pantries that do wonderful work throughout the country. We're going to talk about interwork relationships, whether you're, and we had a very interesting email question that was fantastic. I actually went back and listened to that part of our interview, and it was really, really good. If you get a chance to go in our podcast, Tony Curry Radio podcast, pull up Mission Minded from last week. It's really good. And we basically talked about going into business. Someone wrote a question, should I go in business with my wife? And he didn't want to go. He didn't want to go into business with his wife because he likes having his time away from her. And they have a strong marriage, but she was all about it. And so he was like trying to figure out, okay, how do I do this? And blah, 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 blah. But we'll talk about all facets of that. Before we did it though, and I always like to do some prep. And I saw a really interesting article about these tariffs. And of course, all these polls have come out the last few days. President Trump was in town last night down there at Coleman Coliseum doing the commencement speech. And of course, he was in Michigan a couple of nights before. And he's like telling everyone just to clear out, chill out. It's going to hurt us a little bit, but we're going to be okay. And I saw this interesting article, business owners facing steep tariffs test whether people will pay for made in the USA. We want to be made in the USA. If you're WeatherTech and you're made in the USA, you're like, buy American, buy American, buy American. We could even go and say, buy local, buy local. We even have a local business day here in Birmingham where we say, go out and buy from local businesses, local pharmacies, local things. And that's great. But when you're an anti-Walmarter, because I can get a basket of fruit for $3 there and I have to pay $7 at the farmer's market, we're going to go where we get the best price. In a lot of ways, you're getting better quality too. We know things that are made a lot cheaper, whether it's because they have child labor issues or whatever it is. But, we got two of the same damn things, and one says made in America, and one says made in Taiwan, and it's half price. I'm sorry. I'm going to probably buy it from Taiwan. They don't take into account that our incomes play into this. We're all hurting, right? and we're all paying more for groceries. We're all paying more for TVs. We're all paying because of these tariffs. And because of that, now more than ever, we're really looking for that value. Are we willing to be the one person to say, you know what, I'll pay an extra $100 because this is made in Indiana as opposed to Slovakia? I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I've heard this comment that, because some people like me, and I've said this at times, look, things are going to become more expensive, but typically they're not things that are like you have to have. There are the things that we want or prefer.
I think Trump said it best. He said, instead of having $30, now we'll have two, and then maybe a couple of dollars more, which kind of rub people the wrong way.
Yeah, I get it. Because it sounds like, hey, I'm really hurting, and he can maybe come across as a little indifferent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But there is a point to be made that so many things, it's not just buy American, because there's so many things that are no longer made in America, because the whole manufacturing sector was given away, going all the way back to NAFTA. We said, they saw that, okay, if I'm going to have a manufacturer, I've got to pay benefits. And if I go to Mexico, if I go to Thailand, if I go to whatever, third world country or China, a lot of impoverished areas, like the iPhones, Apple, I can pay people and make that money up. And so a lot of people just got out of the mindset of manufacturing. And then a lot of like car makers overseas car makers and things like that started coming back. And I think a lot of people have already, again, we've talked about this, already committed to coming back and investing in them. And I think what Trump is saying is, like, whether you agree with it or not, and I think there's some challenges there, definitely, especially with labor. On some of these things that are being produced over there, most people in America, you're not going to invest to make some of the things that are made over there, some one-off kind of things, things that Sheen or Shine, however you say it, and
Yeah.
Temu. So the question
And by the
is,
way, they're getting popped now too because they were direct to the consumer and they've
yeah,
closed that loophole as well. And they're actually putting on the bottom of their, because my daughter loves Sheen. She gets a bag of crap. Sorry, it's a bag of crap. She
yeah,
spends $60 and she gets 15 shirts and all these little toys and stuff, and they're usually broken within a week. But go on,
yeah,
continue.
yeah. I mean, yeah, you can get a ton of earrings and all that,
Yeah.
the kind of cheap jewelry. But anyway, you're right. Now that's going up, and so people with the non-essential things, they are deciding, having to decide. Okay, I would pay, $20 for this. Am I willing to pay $40 for it? And everybody's just going to have to decide that for themselves. But the reality is, there are some things that they sell that aren't found on the American market, and so in some ways, it could bring people some discipline in their lives to say, and I'm one of those. Hey, I'm impulsive. I think about it. I look it up on Amazon. Boom, I hit it. I see it. I think it. I want it. I buy it. So there's not going to be some. All this to say is there are going to be some things. I like the idea that foreign things become more equitable with American-made things. And that's because I don't have a problem with the quality of American manufacturing, but nor would I have a problem if those foreign markets would give us access. But you have places like China, you have places like even Germany, and so these so-called allies and all that. For years, there was Airbus, and they would compete against Boeing. Well, Germany was financially supporting and giving all sorts of subsidies and things like that, which made the playing field unfair. I feel like if the playing field's unfair, so you're just looking at the product itself, Americans are willing to fight on that battlefront. If I get beat out because of German quality they're doing and everything's fair, as fair as it, relatively, I say that relatively, and they just beat me out because they're better at marketing or they have a better quality and whatever, then fine, they win. They're the best at it. They deserve it. What I hate is people in America who are employing other Americans who are feeding their families and all those kind of things, who get beat out, not because the quality is better, not because they've been beat to the marketplace. It's because our competitors in China are allowed to come in with no tariffs or no obstacles. They're given open access. Well, an American company can't compete with that because they don't have to pay the labor cost. So it's unfair. And the flip side of that is they're not even letting us compete over there in their markets.
Yep.
So it's shut off. So there's really two unfair things. And I think what Trump is trying to do is to say, look, there is such unfairness in the trade market all the way around that American companies are not, and that's agriculture products, everything else. It's not just manufacturing. But we're growing all this, we're raising this cattle, beef, chicken, all that. We cannot even sell to these different markets, and yet, or they charge us imports. And I think what Trump's saying is, okay, fine, I'm going to level this playing field, and it looks like I'm trying to create a trade war, and all I'm doing is resetting it, saying it's not fair. Now, again, go back to the same problem we've talked about. It feels unnecessary to some people. Who are like, hey, the economy's good. Why are you doing all this? But there's so many people out there. Not just now it's affecting manufacturers and American business now, but for years to come, because nobody outside of Trump is going to tackle an issue and go through the pain. Now, is it painful right now? Yes. Will we adapt? 100%. Is it? So everybody then has to decide, is it worth this pain or not? And I don't have any problem with somebody goes, it's hurting me too bad. I can't support this. It may work out in the long term, but right now in the short term, it's bankrupting me. And I get that. I mean, I totally get it. But I think that's why Trump's saying, yeah, in the interim, it's going to do this. But I think long term, if it resets the trade market to where you open up your markets, we're going to open up our markets. You're going to charge us 25%. We're going to charge you 25%. And we're just not going to let you dump cheap product on our market and run our own American businesses out just because it provides the consumer a less expensive product.
Yeah. And like everything, again, this has been something that quite frankly, we've probably been screwing up on, like you mentioned, NAFTA 20 or 30 years, and it's not going to happen overnight.
And I said there's a huge NAFTA supporter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right. I want to get into relationships at work. And I found this interesting article through Forbes. And the numbers are actually a lot higher than I thought they were. Workplace romance statistics show that over 60% of adults have had a workplace romance. That 43% of those have led to marriage. Workplace romances are not a dream for everyone when 40% of workplace romance involve cheating on an existing partner. It says 57% report workplace relationships have impacted their work performance. 43% have married someone they work with. 35% don't report the relationship to their employer. 40% have cheated on their current partner with a coworker, and 50% report flirting with their coworkers. Would you say that, starting right off, that dating inside the workplace is a good thing or a bad thing? In other words, if you're starting a business and you're starting a new business and you're going to have to employ 100 people right now, what are you putting in your handbook as far as in dating inside your workplace?
Yeah, I'm prohibiting it if I can, and it is wrought with problems. So I will give you an example. When I started Hope Inspired Ministries years ago, I had a guy and a girl. He was pursuing her. I knew both of them personally, and we didn't have a big staff. So when I lost an instructor, she was in marketing, he was an instructor, and they came to me and said, hey, we want to try to give this dating thing a shot.
Okay.
And I looked at him and I said, I don't want to stand in the way of that. However, what happens to the dynamic here at work when this thing goes south? And I'm saying to myself, it's very likely to go south.
Sure.
I didn't say it out loud, but what happens to the dynamic? And that's always the unknown, because you never know if somebody spurs somebody. I mean, we'd all like to say that, oh yeah, we'll gather around the table. We'll say, hey, this just isn't working out. Let's each go on our way. And we're all kumbaya, but it rarely happens that way. Mm-mm. Somebody is going to get sick of the other one, or one's going to cheat, or it's going to be disruptive. One's going to want to continue the relationship. Now this person is Facebook stalking me. It creates tension at work. Then you have people who choose sides at work. So now you can get departments. Everybody in marketing is going to be against this person. Everybody this is going to be this. And the rumor mill and the lost productivity, because all people want to do is gossip. It just goes on and on and on. Not to mention there are some legal ramifications that go on with that. And
is there let me back up real quick. Is from a liability standpoint, is there an advantage to placing in your handbook that there is to be no relationships in the workplace?
So I'm not 100% sure on this. I don't know what the limits are, because here's the thing. You really can't control an employee's relationship outside of work. So if two employees are dating, they don't announce it to anybody, and it doesn't affect their job, can you prohibit them from dating? And then how would you prove it? You've got the rumor mill or whatever. So so some people opt, and I think even the ones we have now are with Heart of Alabama, is, it's discouraged for obvious reasons. If you do it, you need to report it. Since I've been here in my 3 years, we've had 2 people who got married at my discouragement at every turn. Started dating. It was a train wreck from the beginning. He ends up getting in trouble with the law. The whole thing falls apart. We have to take sides in this because now it was a domestic violence kind of thing. He ends up back in jail, gets terminated and all that. But it was things sometimes, when you're a disinterested party, you can see that train wreck coming from a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
When human nature gets involved and the person's lonely and, oh, I just really want somebody, this person is showing me some interest, I'll work with this person, then you look past the red flags, oh, this could work out. And I hate to say this, but lots of times those policies prohibiting that really kind of protects people from themselves, because some people will enter into a relationship not considering any of the risk and what happens, and then it blows up at work and it can damage your reputation. Rumors spread around, even if those rumors are not true, once it's told by that other person to smear you, it's out there. And there's just everywhere you turn, there's a potential problem.
We've heard the phrases work wife, work husband. I hate that because that sounds downright wrong and nasty to me. I get it. I know why people talk about that. I know my wife would not have liked the fact that I'd have a work wife or anything else. I don't even want to be compared to that. Men typically are more vested physically. Women are more vested emotionally. That's where it starts. Normally she's got some type of issue. It starts with a pet peeve. I can't believe Jim always does that. He doesn't get me to work on time, blah, 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 blah. She spouts it off. Guy swoops in. Next thing you know, they're having lunch and she's sharing everything with this guy. Red flag land. Tell me where do you put the line at, in order to maintain a strong, and Christian-like marriage or relationship? What should you not, and what can you share with a coworker, someone that you're going to see 8-9 hours a day?
Yeah. So I'm saying this as a recently divorced man. So you take marriage advice and all that at your own risk. Look, I've encountered this before, personally and otherwise. Especially in the nonprofit space, where you feel like, hey, we're on a mission together. Everybody's bought into the mission. So we're all different, but we're like-minded in purpose every day. And so we're kind of on the team, and you see a member of the team struggling and are venting, and it could be a man, it could be a woman. But I have somebody like that I have referred to in the past jokingly as a work wife, just because it's not that I love the term, but like you said, but it's so ubiquitous. People kind of understand the dynamic that it's one particular person of the opposite sex that you spend a lot of time with, and just that proximity, it describes it. It doesn't necessarily describe a closeness or anything, but it's just, hey, I'm working with this people, working with this person. And it's just the nature of humans. God created us to be relational beings. And so you can deal with all the all the professional stuff, but there's going to be down times. There's going to be, I work with somebody, so I genuinely care about them as a person. And you notice they come in one day and they're just not the same person for whatever reason. Something's going on, and we care. We're relational, and we, with the best of intentions, say, hey, is anything wrong? And they're like, it's just at home. And so it can be an awkward kind of pause, because right there is the line that so many of us get into, that so many of us cross and say things like, well, is there anything you want to talk about? And then once they start, and then of course we want to help because we care. We're not in love. We're not necessarily physically attracted, but we just want to help. And so we help. And then of course they come back the next day. How'd it go? And it just goes off, and then they'll say things, and then you start comparing their perspective to your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend or fiance, whatever it is. That's why it's so common in the business community, as you read statistically, is because if you think about it, if I spend 8 hours a day with the majority of that, with a person of the opposite sex. And then I get home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm in bed at 8 or 9. I spend more time at work
Yeah, sure.
than with the person I'm married to. And especially the longer you get married, everybody knows you have highs and lows. And so I don't have anything new to share with. I mean, I know everything I know about my spouse. I go home, we watch TV, we eat dinner together, whatever. But here's a new relationship. And so for lack of a better term, there's a freshness to it. And sometimes that can feel good. Even again, nothing sexual, nothing. It all starts with I'm not looking to cheat on my wife. Somebody's not looking to cheat on their husband. It's just the proximity, and then you find some things. Hey, this person is already on mission. I admire these things, and then
you're going through the initial process of what it is to court a person, is what it is, and I think that's why it's fun and sexy, and you're meeting another person. It's almost like you're going on a date. You don't think you are, but you are going on a date. And I will make the purpose that if I find someone attractive, I'm much more willing to listen to their problems.
Yeah.
If it's Martha back in DHR and she's, or DR or whatever, or human resources, and she's 63 years old and she's having a hard time, I'm probably going to go, listen, I'd love to talk to you about this, but I have an appointment. I can't. But if she's got a mini skirt on and she's in her 20s and she just got married 3 months ago, all of a sudden I'll find the time.
Let me just say what a sexist pig you are. I just want to say it, just for the record.
And it's the truth. I mean, we can go back to the When Harry Met Sally days. Do men want to sleep with everyone? Can they be friends with girls? And the answer is no. They can be, only if she says there's no way in hell you're getting in this. And that's the way it is. And even then we won't take no for an answer. We'll just keep going and going and going until they've shared enough with us that we feel like we know them. How important do you think it is to know your mate's workforce? I can remember when my ex started working with a group, I think it was called Evergreen. I think it was an advertising agency. She was out of town in Dallas. I called her one morning. She sounded horrible, and some of her coworkers took her out and got her drunk. She is allergic to alcohol, and I picked up the phone. I made my way down to her workplace. I wanted to find out who these individuals were because I knew it was a couple of guys, and I know how people react to alcohol, period. And I said, you ever take my wife out again, I'll kill you. I'm not a jealous type, but it affected her work. I don't think she was upset that I did that. She was relatively new to the business. The guys that she were with were more powerful than she was. They were higher up the chain. So I just was like, this we're gonna nip this thing in the bud right here. Because the whole idea of having drinks after work and blah 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 blah. Again, I'm a visual God-made animal, and I know how we work. But how important it is to certainly if you have functions at work where wives and husbands are invited, I think you should be there to show support. But I think it's good to know who your wife or your husband's working with.
Yeah, and of course that's not always possible. One of the ways is you try to connect with some of the spouses, or some way, and identify. Not to say you want people spying, but if your spouse knows that you know people at work, and that rumors can get out, or they know who to reach out to, but what ideally what you want is you want a relationship. You're working very hard on it at home, and so you help your spouse see when you hear them talking, when you see certain actions, because like I said, lots of times it's the intention of a man might just be, I just want to help. There's nothing to this. And they go down, they cross the line, not with bad purposes in mind, but it just happens. And then all of a sudden there starts to be some feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're in an emotional relationship because you stepped over 8 red flags along the way.
Yes.
So a spouse, talking to them and sitting down, and if you have somebody like that you think works in those environments, and you have somebody that has a work wife, or somebody who has maybe a secretary or an administrative assistant or something like that, sit down and communicate about that and say, look, I'm not going to harass you. I want to trust you. But I want to talk to you about here's some red flags for me, and here's some here's some things that I'm expecting you to lines to not cross. Now, we kind of went into our workplace relationships bad, so now we're talking about married. I mean, but you get both of those across the board. I mean, so I would talk to my spouse, I would communicate to my spouse. Um, I would listen to them and how they talk about the other person. And that can give you some understanding if feelings sometimes are starting to be met. And sometimes you hear that, oh, just she's this, she's my work wife, she's this, and you can tell with body language when you go to functions.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to, even though I'm the boss, and I try to get around the room and speak to everybody, it's the people that if I'm just standing there, I'm going to stand with people that I feel more comfortable, that my personality gels with more than others. It's not playing favorites, it's just a comfort level kind of thing. And so if I have my work wife over here, or again, lack of a better term, but somebody I spend a lot of time with, and I'm over there, we talked about this. Rumors can start. And they're like, you know what? I see Michael. And then you go to a social, and there's Michael standing by this person, you know. So
You start running into them in places
well,
outside the workplace. Yeah.
well, that's the kind of thing that this leads to why it's so problematic, not just for two people. So let's talk about it from a hierarchical perspective, where you have a position of power at work,
That's exactly where I
and
wanted
somebody
to.
else.
I was gonna call it the Clinton Lewinsky angle here, and a lot of people don't understand that Monica Lewinsky was taken advantage of. She
Yeah,
freely did what she wanted to do. Don't get me wrong.
yeah,
I'm not saying that she was not, but I mean, he certainly had a source of immense power, if not the most powerful man on the face of the earth.
sure,
The fact that she got a chance to be with him, I'm not saying I wouldn't sleep with Bill Clinton if I had the opportunity.
yeah,
So yeah, talk about that a little bit and how important it is because there's huge red flags on both ends. First of all, it could end the job for the superior, for the person who's got the power. And certainly, if you start doing things for that person that is below you, and next thing you know, they're getting promotions when other people should be, that could bode well as well.
yeah. Well, first of all, now I'm forced to get this visual out of you and Bill Clinton, so that may take me the rest of the
Hey,
show.
let
So
me tell you something. I'll tell you
I
something.
may seem distracted.
We had a news gal, and her name's Lisa Holyfield. She's a friend of mine. She went by Roxanne. She did not like Bill Clinton one bit. She loathed this man, and this was
Yeah,
after the post Monica Lewinsky thing. And she got the opportunity to go to the White House along with 50 other reporters around the country.
yeah,
And as a news reporter, she was very, very excited about the opportunity to go to the White House and interview him and do that. And she came back and she was smitten. She's like, I get it. She's like, he is. She goes, I fought it so hard, Tony. She goes, but I get it. I could see
yeah,
where within an hour, he just had that charisma. And
yeah,
then you throw in the fact that he is the most powerful man in the world. Who wouldn't want to be with
yeah,
him? You know.
yeah,
So, but
yeah. I
but
totally
when
get
it
it.
comes down to it, he puts his pants on just like you and I do.
Yeah. So if you have as a supervisor, if you have begin a relationship with a subordinate, uh, you are you're opening yourself up wide open to legalities. Because here's the thing, uh, no matter what she claims, all right, so let's say this starts to go bad, and let's say it's a normal relationship, and let's just say you get into it and you find out like it'd be somebody that you were dating, and you say, we're just not jiving. Hey, I think it'd be better if we went our separate ways. You do that on the job. Now you don't know what she's recorded, what pictures she has, what compromising positions. You don't know. You got text that you thought it was perfectly fine to send, and now she's going to tell a story. He or she could tell a story, and then they've got that over you, and so
Mhm.
you're like, well, he can't fire me. If he fires me, I'm going to EOC, or I'm going to file a lawsuit of sexual harassment, or say he influenced me. I'm going to tell the story differently. And once it becomes public, and then in my case, it'd be board of directors, but it could be a company's board of directors, or it could be somebody higher than you within the company. And you're like, wait a minute, you're bringing this happened at work. You're bringing expense from lawyers, and you're too high of a risk. Then you get fired, and now you've got it's going to get out, and there's whispers, and people don't see how quickly those things can snowball. And if you reversed it, if it's the worker that spurned you, then especially if they said unkind things to you, to other employees, I've seen people in power positions use that power, say, I'm going to terminate you, and they start building a case. And so it looks like retaliation for breaking up. Again, right back into this legal mess. At a minimum, you're talking about a discomfort, because not only are people going to know that you dated that person,
Yeah,
but so that erodes your trust, your credibility. So even if you stay in that position, even if it doesn't become legal, people are going to look at you with suspicion. It's going to hurt their ability to trust you and even take you serious to some point. Or they may think every time you come at them with a question, you're just trying to conduct business, but like, is he hitting on me? I mean, it really damages a relationship, and it's simply not worth it.
no doubt. Great stuff, Michael. We appreciate you. info@tonycurryradio.net. I'm sure this will bring in some emails. I have no doubt. And so maybe we'll get into some of those next week, and I can't wait to get some of those too. info@tonycurryradio.net. info@tonycurryradio.net. Mission Minded. We'll do it again next week. Coming up here next on our broadcast network of stations here on Tony Curry Radio, and of course, wherever you get your podcast, Bite by Bite, which is specific to the Heart of Alabama Food Bank. Can't wait to see what we're going to get into next right here on Tony Curry Radio. Thank you, sir.
Enjoyed it as always.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.